What's happening, everybody? I had to listen to one of my. Oh, you son of a bitch! Apparently, my Spotify Premium ran out. Oh well. I'll deal with that here in a second. So, how's everybody doing tonight? I thought that music was going to continue to play uninterrupted, but at least we got some Jetoman in there. Big ups to Trunks in the chat. I see you. You do need to finish Jetman. It's best in the series. I'll hear no arguments. No arguments about that whatsoever. There is no better Sentai than the Chojin Sentai Jetman. So now that I've outed myself as a complete weird man-child weave, as if that wasn't obvious enough as it is. How you guys doing tonight? Dewey, thanks for coming. Oh, Daddy, I thought he said Daddy. Daddy said no. Yeah, no worries. No worries about the sub bomb. Save those for DSP. We're gonna have a distinct lack of DSP tonight on the stream, just because you know, there was a number of people asking about art stuff, and I wanted to do some art stuff. I mean, I can put Phil on in the background if you guys want to, but it might muddle a little bit of what we're doing here, and I thought it might be fun to just sit and walk you guys through process, because like I said, I've been getting a lot of questions about that. I also don't know if this is going to be a super duper long stream tonight. Not that I really give those out anyway, but I got to get up to go to the gym at 3 a.m. I was tired enough before this. I got myself all fucking jacked up on pre-workouts. I'm probably going to be a little bit wired, probably going to talk a little bit fast. So apologies in advance for that. Yeah, you know what, Trunks, I could talk to you all day about Sentai. I have fallen down the tokusatsu rabbit hole hard since about 2018. My quick rundown on that before I move on to anything else. I have watched every 90s Sentai. I have watched, I think, 2 or 3 seasons of the 80s. I've watched most of Go Ranger, although I'm not done. And I've definitely watched a number of the really good 2010 stuff. And I actually currently watch all, when it comes to tokusatsu, I watch the big three every week: Ultraman, Super Sentai, and Kamen Rider. So I'm very tuned into that world. I love that kind of shit. You know what? 3 a.m. used to be gin recovery time. Lots changed for me in the last couple of years, and one of the big things was I'd always been going to the gym but never taken it super seriously, and I've kind of slowly evolved into a gym guy. And it's been pretty good for me. And believe it or not, yeah, my routine these days, 5 days a week, I'm up at 3 a.m. So, anyway, I think that's enough of a fucking pre-stream. Let's get into this shit here. Actually, you know what? Let me get on some music first. That really gets me butthurt that my Spotify Premium ran out, because that's where I got all my Sentai music. I really just wanted to run Sentai themes all day today, because I am that much of a nerd. Anyway, so let's hop over here. Hang on, which one of these did I set up? I've got so many, because I was playing around with them for such a long time. I've got so many different scenes set up here. And let me know if the balance on the sound is okay, aside from just messing around with the desktop audio, obviously, and I don't have to account for Philium this evening. But my missus, she saw, she put it, how excited I was to be doing this streaming and making videos for you guys, and so she went out and got me an early Christmas gift and got me a nice new microphone. So hopefully I sound better than I've ever sounded before, but it is still sitting on my desk for the time being, so there's still going to be that every now and again, and I apologize for that. So first off, I actually just thought I would share something before we get into drawing. I just wanted to share this with somebody. I made this guy just for funsies, something to kind of celebrate the season. Somehow I got it in my head that if a Nutcracker mech doesn't exist, it should. So I made myself kind of a little Nutcracker battle robot, and I thought he was pretty cool. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. That's just me showing my 3D shit, because I love doing 3D shit too. So what we're going to do tonight... Oh, thank you, Dewey. Appreciate it. The KFC Hogan was definitely fun to do. But what I want to do tonight... I was thinking about a lot of the questions that I've gotten about about process in general, and I thought I might actually take one drawing. Let's just do one drawing. We're gonna make it of the pig roach because we know that's like he's the glue, he's the fucking horse glue that holds all of us together. We're just gonna do a simple drawing of the pig roach man, but I'm gonna take it step by step through consecutive streams. So I think this stream, I'm just gonna go over sketching to kind of polished line work. I don't want that. Nope, phone's on vibrate. We're going to turn that off. I don't want you guys hearing that all night. But I'm going to start off with sketching to polished line work, and then I think probably next stream we'll go into like blocking out color, maybe even do some general, some basic values and shading, and then take that same drawing and do like different lighting explorations on it. Not only would it be good practice for me, but I think it'd be fun if you guys are interested to see stuff like that too. Admittedly, getting a lot of these questions and doing this streaming has kind of, like everything else in this community, it helps. It gets me excited to scratch an itch I haven't scratched in a while, and that would be art instruction. I'm not a teacher by any means, but I've been able to do some instruction at my alma mater in the past, but it's been a little while, so that should be a lot of fun. Eisenhorn, welcome. Thank you for coming. So where we're going to start here. And I think it merits saying, too, I'm going to show you how to do things in my style. But there's, I would say in the grand scheme of things, I'm a pretty mid-tier artist. There's a lot of people out there doing a lot of amazing work, and they're all sharing their tips and tricks and techniques, too. So feel free to, to explore their shit as well. That's how I do. That's how I learn from stuff. But like anything else, like when you're building anything else, we're going to start with a foundation. So I apologize if this sounds a little bit like class, but this is how we're going to do things. So a good foundation for anything or for any drawing is just a really good sketch. So you want to start out just doing sketches until you kind of find a pose that you like. If there's anything in particular you guys want to see our boy Pig Roach doing, shout it out in the chat, and I'll bake it into our sketch here because I don't really have any plans for him to pose him or for anything for him to do. As you can see, I'm starting with this kind of bean shape. This is what I always start with because I always start with the head. If it's not blatantly obvious from the work I share online, I'm very much a character designer kind of guy. I kind of suck at environments. I'm trying to get better at them, but character design is definitely my thing. So starting out with these basic forms to kind of build out his head, and you'll see like this area here is the big pudgy bit of his face, the lower face, the chunky part, the part that's always sagging when we look at him on stream. And up here is kind of the upper head part, which, I pull in a lot further, like this way, than his actually is. His head is definitely more of like just a big sort of this shape. But I kind of like this because it accentuates the chunk of the cheeks and the jowls. In my opinion, it makes him feel a little more pig-like. But I always want to pull out a little bit of a Cro-Magnon forehead on this because, as you've all seen, especially when that guy turns sideways, man, he protrudes like nobody's business in the forehead region. Do I think a DSP show would do good? Like if I did it, like if there was actually a cartoon with the right writer, anything could do good. I mean, I would think that a DSP show would have to be a dark comedy written by somebody who's talented and in on the joke. But it's funny. I think, I've said this to multiple people, I think that the best option for a DSP show, actually of all things, would be like a Vince Gilligan style show. God damn it. Fucking style. Did it again. Like a Breaking Bad or a Better Call Saul. Picture a format like that, but chronicling the rise and fall of Darkside Phil. I think if you put the right people behind that and played it fucking straight, like didn't try to play it off as a joke, played it 100% serious, it could actually be the most unintentionally funny thing ever. I'd be entertained as hell by that. But anyway, so again, we're going to start off with a good foundation of a sketch. I saw drinking gin in the chat, so that's what our boy is going to be doing. And I'm just using basic geometry here to block out how I want the different parts of his body to sit. His ears are going to be perked up because they're always perked up on a piggy. I don't really think they ever put their ears down, where I could be wrong about that. But I spent years trying to get away from farms. I don't want to go back, even if it's in my mind. So Then I'm going to put this other bit of droop down here for the double chin. I always try to include the double chin. And when I'm doing this, you can't see my arm, but I'm really keeping my arm loose, and I'm doing what I was taught, it was referred to as drawing from the shoulder. So when I'm moving like this, my shoulder is constantly moving, like my whole arm is moving in this early stage. And I like to think of drawing as like tightening or starting out with drawing from the shoulder and then moving up the arm. So as you start to refine, you start drawing from the elbow where your elbow is moving. Then you get into drawing from the wrist. And then when you finally get into the final details, you're just drawing by moving your fingers, doing small strokes. So drawing from the shoulder to the fingers, I think, is a pretty good practice to sort of evolve your work as you dig your way through a piece. Hey, that being said, pig ups. Respectfully suggesting. ALT is the only guy I know who comes in and acts as polite as I do in stream chats and shit. Never want to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm a little too nice. Anyway, so the other thing to keep in mind is, regardless of what we decide the pig roach is going to be doing here, again, it's just so super important to get a sketch that you like, a sketch that you feel good about, that you feel some energy from the pose, from what's going on, from you feel will execute into a good image. Because if you don't, you're just building on a shitty foundation. So you should never be afraid if you don't like the way a sketch looks. That's why you do it quick. If you don't like the way it looks, don't be afraid to just scrap it and start over. I would actually default to, of all things, I was watching this video, live sketching by Ichiro Oda, the creator of One Piece, one of the most popular comic books of all time. And he was going through his process for sketching his chapter covers, and he must have erased his basic sketches like 15 times before he landed on something. And the idea of the video was just stressing the idea that even the greats, even the masters, sometimes they just need to erase and restart. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in it. In fact, if you're not doing it, you're just nerfing yourself from the get-go. You know what? He's definitely going to be on a cell phone and drinking gin. I think we're going to combine those two suggestions. I think that makes perfect sense. I might have made his body a little bit big here. You'll also notice as you draw a character over and over again, it'll slowly start to evolve too. Which is always interesting, because you refine, you evolve, but then you can put your drawing of the character next to a drawing of the character from 6 months ago, and it'll look completely different. Another solid trick when you're drawing digitally, so right now, obviously, I'm messing with the opacity of the image. Drop that image down, make another layer in whatever program you're using. I'm using a Autodesk Sketchbook because I just love this program, but make another layer, above it, below it, whatever, and then draw on that separate layer. So since I like where the body and the head are, I'm going to leave them there. Actually, that's not what I want. I'm going to leave them there, but I'm going to work on this other layer so as to kind of not ruin the integrity of the sketch that I've already laid out, until, of course, I want to. You know, there'll come a time to, I guess, be destructive to that layer, but we're not there yet, because we want to get everything else in first. Give him these big, thick back legs. Got to support all that weight. You know that when the detractors draw me, they always draw me really fat, dude. I'm not that fat. I'm not like Wings of Redemption. My DSP impression's terrible. I want to get like a voice changer, like the Scream 3 voice changer, and just get Meerkat's, just his DSP impression. I want Meerkat's DSP impression. If I could transplant somebody else's vocal cords temporarily, I think I'd probably take those. All right, so I've got his hind legs down because, as we all, I'm sure we all remember, our boy, at least in Dark Side Chronicles form, has got his 6 legs, because if you're in the know, you know that he's a legitimate pig roach hybrid. So we've got those legs. Put a little suggestion down here to the the rear legs, because you always want to make sure, like, I know you're going to be able to see part of that foot, so I want to make sure I'm representing it from under there. And it's something that over time you just pick up and get better at, but don't be afraid. Like here, I'll move this on another layer. Don't be afraid to draw through something. That's another thing I was taught a lot of in school. So you see the way I've got this leg right here, right? Well, consider if we're drawing this other leg on the back of his body and it's sitting the same way, I can kind of draw a perspective line through here to where the top of this leg will be, and say the top of the other leg will essentially start right about there. And you can quickly draw another leg and just know that that's where the hoof is going to land. God, I'm saying all this with a straight face. That's where the hoof is going to land. And then you can get rid of all the excess. So I kind of ran through that exercise in my mind, and that's how I knew where to lay that back hoof in with perspective. And again, that's something that comes with time, but there are definitely easy practices to get there until you hit a point where you can just do that with ease. And you'll notice every time I'm going to add another element, I'm going to another layer, I'm dropping down the opacity. It's just the way I like to work. I even actually like to switch which color I'm working in each time, because I just feel like it helps mentally and visually separate the different sections of the drawing that I'm working on. I realized I forgot his snout. Got to get a snout in there. Now, I will admit, while I'm sitting here, I'm going to be gagging on him for drinking, gagging on him. Why did I word it that way? I'm going to be ragging on him for drinking gin, but I myself am sipping some sake tonight. I decided if I was going to really relax and do this, I wanted to relax and do this. So, all right, so we're going to add that snout. And I'm sure you'll also notice, you've probably seen this before, whether you're accustomed to it or you're accustomed to the drawing practice or understanding what it is in general. But these construction lines, when I draw something like this, it's just kind of building out the three-dimensional form of the skull here, for lack of a better term. Just kind of getting an idea of where the mouth is going to be and the curvature of the body. Like you want to do stuff like this early on so that you have a pretty good idea of the way the body is going to, or the body does curve. And again, if you don't see me do this in certain parts, it's really just because I've kind of already mapped out in my mind the way all this is going to work. And that's just something that comes with experience. But we've got a pretty good foundation for the base of his body here. And you'll notice I'm not adding clothes or anything yet. I'm just working on the pose. But we got to get... We're going to get his rear arm in here to hold up his phone. Now, this is probably the most important question of the entire stream, and I want you guys to think really hard about this. Is this a good night or a bad night? Is he pulling that new 6-star Brock Lesnar, or is he striking out? Like, how much of Emel's money is going down the drains tonight? Are we lucky or are we damned? Because that is going to inform his facial expression. It looks like he's wearing frilly socks. Yeah, I like to do sort of classic cartoony fluff around where the hoof is. It's just something I kind of started doing. I think it's sort of an old school cartoony thing to do. I don't know if I like the angle of this. I think we got to get him. That angle's not working for me, brother. There we go. He's pulling a 3-star jobber. All right, all right. Trying to think who could he be pulling? Is it like Brooklyn Brawler's not a 3-star jobber. I mean, Brooklyn Brawler's like 1 star. So now you got me wondering who did he pull? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I know he's not going to be happy with it. That's what I wanted to know Is he does he have, I don't know, what would you call it? It's not a money buff. It's like the only other thing that makes him happy. So, I mean, he's got like three buffs. He's got gin buff, he's got money buff, and he's got I guess ultra rare SR pull buff. Drop my PayPal link so I can pay my B. Yes, I'll do that any second now. Just hang on. I don't have begging mode on. Admittedly, I thought I got Stream Elements up and running, but I'm not even sure if it's working. I promise you, I've been trying to do little things here and there in what little time I have to make these streams better. But the fact of the matter is, I fucking run a household. I don't know if you've heard about that, but I run a household. And if you do, good for you, I guess. I debate Ken Shamrock. You know what? I was about to argue against Ken Shamrock as a fucking 3-star jobber, but he's right in the middle of the road. He might have pulled a Shamrock. Big ups, King Jad. Welcome, thank you, and thank you for dropping the Gilbert reference. I haven't fucking thought of that guy in years. That's a pleasant memory to bring up. And thanks everybody, by the way, for being here. If I haven't said so yet. I'm still kind of floored by how much I'm actually enjoying all this streaming stuff. I actually blame that being said, because I think I might have mentioned it when I was on the show, but I do have a short but enjoyable past with both streaming and podcasting. Enjoyable because it was fun, short because I wasn't very good at either one of them. But, you know, I apparently have an itch. Apparently have an itch to sit in front of a microphone and bullshit, because it was pretty shortly after being on the show, I was like, man, I want to start making shit. So it didn't take me long to figure out kind of what I wanted to do. Oh shit, I gotta save this before this crashes. Let's call it Pullin' Pork. This file is officially called, oh wait, not pulling, pull in. God damn it. It's not funny if I spell it correctly. Pullin' Pork. Oh, thanks, Duty. I appreciate it. Well, I love your content, brother. Duty, you are actually one of the people, along with Snort and Raven, who get me through my my 3-hour morning gym sessions. I swear to you, every morning it's like I normally start off catching up on a bit of Snort Hogan, and then I run through whatever new videos you've posted. And then I normally switch over, because Raven's not normally streaming yet, so I tend to switch over and catch up on Jim Cornette's podcast for a bit. Oh, I catch up on some piece if he restreamed the night before, and then I normally finish off like by towards the end of my my shift, my session, whatever you want to call it. Raven tends to be on, and that's kind of become my routine. So I have lifted many a heavy thing while your voice rings in my ears, and I'm appreciative of that. You know, I'm not Jaha in disguise, but I'm trying to be. I'd have to talk to Jaha about his numbers. I would say, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think I'm as strong as Jaha, but I don't think I'm that far off. What I do not have is the Jaha physique, because I think, as he put it when he was on That Being Said, you kind of look the way you lift, and he prioritizes, if I remember correctly, he prioritizes like the bro split. He prioritizes very much the aesthetic. It's why he looks so goddamn good, because he works hard and he prioritizes that. I definitely prioritize strength and power, and I care a little bit less about that. So I am in very good shape, but I am fluffy. I am fluffy. There's no question. I don't ripple the way our fucking Lord and Savior Jaha ripples. He's a fucking beast. I'm losing focus. But I have like most people who sort of fall down that rabbit hole. I have kind of become addicted to getting to the gym. It just as I grow older, it helps me feel good, you know. And to be completely honest with you, I come from a long family history of morbid obesity, and it's kind of something from very early on in life I always knew that I wanted to try to avoid. So, you know, and I've definitely fallen hard off that horse. In fact, here's a fun personal story that I'm sure I'll regret telling later, but fuck it. When I was still living in New York City, I was working in an office on 6th Avenue, Avenue of the Americas, whatever you want to call it, not too far from the Flatiron Building, one of the coolest jobs I ever had. And I had to present. I had to present a project I was working on to executives in about 15 minutes. And I'm sitting there trying to rush out some work because obviously, you know, if you've ever worked in the corporate world, you know everybody's changing shit right up until the last minute. So you can't be prepared for anything. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, and this is the worst I ever got, all of a sudden my belt bursts like Mr. Creosote in Monty Python and the Meaning of Life. My belt actually bursts because my fat ass had gotten so fat, and it just fucking exploded. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm fucking fat, really fat, and I've got to go present to some pretty wealthy, powerful people in my industry, and I'm still a relatively new guy in the industry, so I need to make a good impression. So I hold my pants up and I go running up Sixth Avenue in Manhattan, hunting a belt. And you know, if you've ever been shopping in a hurry in New York, especially if you're looking for something specific like that, you kind of take what you can get. So I went and bought the only $80 belt I've ever purchased in my life, in just to try and save myself, to get myself out of this situation. And I actually went home that night and I looked at my wife and said, I need a gym membership. And I never looked back. Now, it took years for me to actually get my shit together and you know, do the gym right. It was a learning process, but that was the impetus. I had never had my belt fucking just shatter under the sheer weight of my fucking gut before. So when I talk about personal improvement and how far I've come, that's the kind of shit I talk about, or that's the kind of shit I mean. I did not pay $200 duty, but too goddamn close to that. New York's a weird fucking place in general, man. I have so many weird stories from that job. Like another fun one. I have really jacked up teeth, so just long story short, I grew up with really jacked up teeth. My parents couldn't afford braces, so on and so forth. So I just kind of, as I got older, I grew accustomed to just, was like, you know what, my teeth are all jagged and fucked up. It is what it is, right? In fact, ironically, my wife telling me that she liked my teeth and thought they were cool was one of the first times, and she was being completely unironic about it. It was one of the first times I realized how cool she was. But I was working at that same job in Manhattan, and I had to go ship some stuff at the UPS store. So I walk over to the UPS store, and behind the desk at the UPS is this absolutely gorgeous goth chick, just gorgeous, like. And you know, the kind of person is like, she can only have a job at something like a UPS store because she was clearly not going to change her appearance for anything. So she was lucky to have that job, but she was gorgeous. And I walk in there, and I go to mail something, and she starts kind of chatting me up, for better or worse, and she starts complimenting me on my teeth. And as she's talking to me, she won't stop talking, and as she's talking to me more and more about my teeth, it's become blatantly obvious that she thinks that it's a stylistic thing, because what she was honing in on is I have really pointy canines, incisors, whatever they are. And finally, she finally pays attention to the look on my face, and she gets so fucking embarrassed, and she goes, "You didn't do that on purpose, did you?" And I was like, "No." my my teeth are just fucked to pieces. But thank you. Like you made me feel so you made me feel good about my teeth for the first time since my fucking wife told me they were awesome. But she had all these great things to say about them because she thought I had like I don't know that I had fucking filed them down or something to be cool, I guess. Which if teenage Darksy had known that that was gonna get the goth chicks, I probably would have done it. Probably would have done it a long time ago. Anyway, goddamn, that was a lot of story time. So as you can see, now that once I built out the form, now I'm going in and I've kind of, as I was talking about earlier, I've moved down my arm. I've moved down from drawing with the shoulder to drawing with the elbow. So I'm still kind of making some relatively big movements, but I'm going back over the drawing and I'm starting to work in some more detail elements like this weird snidely whiplash mustache that I always give him. Excuse me. So anyway, yeah, Darksy to Phil, breaking belts and breaking hearts, since I don't know when, straight out of the womb, I guess. I've just been that cool this whole time. So I'm gonna lay in his mustache. I'm gonna lay in. Oops, come to this layer. Lay in that little patchy goatee bit, which I love whenever I get compliments on the patch in his goatee, because not only did I steal it from Kid Flim, but I literally draw the same shape as Kid Flim's pixels. That's kind of my homage to Kid Flim, which again I think is just a nice way of saying that I stole the look from him. But it works so well. Plus, if you steal something, but then you do it well, people tend to forgive you, for better or worse. He's saying I should have adopted a British accent. Let me get a little more sake in me, and I'll be the first to brag about my British accent. I'm actually kind of decent. I'm not gonna lie. I've actually thought to myself, if I could actually keep myself focused on it, I might actually be able to keep up with Fantastic Mr. Sam in a British accent contest, at least for a few minutes before he fucking blows me out with his pure gentlemanly cadence. But god damn, I can't do it. Forgot he's supposed to be happy. No, he pulled the jobber. Never mind. I was just gonna say that I drew the wrong shape of eyebrows, but he pulled the jobber. He pulled the jobber. He's pissed. Yeah, Duty, I would actually love to hear you address that on a video, because I have heard you say in multiple forums. I don't think I've ever seen you say your actual age, but I've heard you suggest that you were older than Phil, and that's another one I call bullshit on, because obviously I don't know what you look like, but your voice apparently doesn't age, because I thought I was at least a decade older than you for a real long time. Well, I think we're all mentally 18. That's why we're here. I still can't believe how supportive the missus is of all this. I do have the coolest permanent lady friend ever. I'd call her soulmate, but I think at this point I'm more her soulmate. Just kind of the way things have worked out. What are you gonna do? So, again, just to recap everything, I got a pose on the first try that I liked, and again, I think that's another thing that kind of comes with experience, is over time you can picture stuff in your head more clearly. It doesn't always happen, but I got down a pose that I liked pretty quick. I got down the perspective of it pretty quick, and then once I laid out that basic geometry, it just became a matter of going back over the form that I have here and basically just adding the details of the vest. Where's the bottom of that vest going? It's gonna go here. Adding the details of the vest and the hooves and the gin and all that good stuff. So I'm doing a lot of shortcutting here, but I think you got to do a lot of shortcutting when you're trying to show somebody how to actually technically do something, because otherwise, going to be bored out of their fucking skull. Hopefully, that's not a problem. And if it is, if you're bored, you can get the fuck out. Nothing I could do. It's not my fault. Callisto Protocol is the greatest game of 2022 and quite possibly the 2020s in general. And if you think anything else, you're just a mentally ill dipshit. All right, so now we're here. We've got this nice sketch laid out, and so I would say I'm kind of looking through and I ask myself, what am I missing? You know what I'm missing is glasses. Actually, before we go into lines. Oh, and here's another thing. If you ever want to rotate, all the digital programs have a rotation function, and really this kind of serves to just move your canvas, almost like you're turning a piece of paper to get the right angle of what you for doing a particular line, or an ellipse or a curve or whatever it is you're trying to draw. And actually, I'll take a second to address something in particular. One of the comments I got on the Colonel Sanders video, still can't believe those are serious words that I'm saying. One of the comments that I got was how I drew the paper plate that the bucket of horse meat was sitting on so well on I think it was first or second try. Well, here's the trick. You can't see the tools because I just have OBS set up to just capture the window. You can't see all the tools at my disposal here. But when it comes to drawing an ellipse, like for a plate, right? That was freehand. The one you're looking at right now is freehand. And I'll admit, it's pretty decent. But again, that's practice, right? That's years and years of practice. However, what I did in that video, because I distinctly remember doing it, if I can't hit an ellipse a way that I want to, there are all sorts of smoothing features in these digital programs so that when I draw quickly the ellipse, it will kind of compensate and make it perfect for me. Boom. God, okay, this one has this little aberration, and I don't know why it does that sometimes, but you see that? Or I draw a circle, and if I draw it close enough, it'll kind of, how it's doing that snap. This is cheating. I mean, it's not cheating. It's a tool in the program, but it is kind of cheating. And actually, this same tool makes it so, here, I want to draw a straight line. That's me freehanding a straight line, which, again, I think is pretty good, but it's not perfect. But watch this. I turn the tool back on, and it snaps straight. So some of this looks like magic because it kind of is. But I will admit that over time, if you draw fucking 8 hours a day every day like I do, you're just gonna learn to do those things better than you normally would. But I use a lot of tricky tools to kind of get the line work that I want here. Hey Jaha, welcome. We were talking about you earlier. I was saying that you're tiny and small, and I wanted to get you in the gym to show you how it was really done. Because King Jad was telling me that you were the most built motherfucker he'd ever seen, and I said, no. I said, I'm gonna fucking show that guy. I said, bring your Captain America shield, and we'll get it done. No, actually, I was before you find me, I was singing your praises as well. So now we're going to get into line work here. And again, I've taken this other layer and just reduced the opacity of it. You want to make sure that you can't see it really, or it's light enough you can see it, but you can really see clearly the lines that you're drawing. It was a 300 shield. Fuck. And I drew it as a Captain America shield and nobody called me out on it. Jesus Christ, take my lore card away. Take my fucking lore card away. I'm done. I'm out. Stream ends now. Fuck, you're right. I remember the story now. I've been making Captain America jokes for weeks, and you motherfuckers are too nice to call me out on it. Anyway, another thing I like to do, fun little trick here, is if you notice this pen that I'm using, I actually have the opacity turned down a bit. Let me get really close on this. This is one swipe, and then when I swing back over it, you'll notice it gets a little bit darker. So I like drawing with something that's semi-opaque, because just drawing a nice hard black line, not only is it kind of harsh on the eye, but I think there's a nice quality to kind of even just building up your line work from a darkness perspective. So I always do that as well, because I think it adds a nice sort of energetic quality to the drawing when you kind of go over the lines a couple of times. And you'll see later when I start messing with line weights, some other benefits that has in the long run. So again, it's not a must. There's no hard, fast rules to any of this. But it's always a nice, I think that's a nice practice, I guess, what I'm trying to say. And so now I'm going through, I'm just trying to keep it light, but trying to make some more definitive lines. And again, we're going to take multiple passes at this, which you'll see. But I'm just trying to make sure that what I get is cleaner and more intentional than what I have before. This is all just a step-by-step building process. Long story short, Jaha, don't get me in more trouble. But I have a feeling Jaha spends more than 3 hours a day in the gym. And to be fair, my 3-hour days in the gym, I only just bumped up to that a few months ago. And it was actually because I had plateaued super hard, and I just kind of got angry. I hit a point where I realized if I'm going to get what I want out of my gym sessions, I just had to start putting in more time. Simple as that. I had to start putting in more time. And it's working. It's definitely working. I'm getting there. As long as I'm down on all my protein in a day. And getting my trips in, I'm definitely making progress. Actually hit a couple new PRs this morning, so always a good feeling. Well, Jad, get your ass on a plane or a boat or whatever you got to do. Get over here. I'm on the East Coast. It'll only take you a good, 14, 15 hours to get here. I'll take you out. Protein and fried ice cream? Fuck. I mean, there's got to be some, right? There's got to be some. Well, now I respect you even more, Jaha. If you're getting it all in an hour, fuck. Admittedly, it's at this point, it's as much a therapy session for me as it is anything else. And it's one of, and I'm going to say this, but I'm going to throw in the caveat. I love my children. I love my children. I think I'm a pretty good dad. But I will say those 3 hours at the gym in the morning, it's one of the only times of the day that I am not hearing dad, 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 dad every 30 seconds. So it is kind of a nice escape. So again, just building up these lines. And admittedly, if I wasn't sitting here talking to you assholes, I'd probably be doing this a lot quicker. But that's more of a focus thing than anything else. I know I've brought it up before. I kind of pride myself in speed in my industry. The faster you are, the more valuable you tend to be. And since my number one goal ever since I joined my industry has been to just find a place where I can make myself as indispensable as possible so I can continue to collect my paycheck, I focused a lot on getting quick. But then, you know, when I do personal stuff like this, a lot of times, I kind of try to take my time and savor the flavor, if you will. Mostly because this is like the only drawing of the day where people aren't messaging me on IMs and saying, "Do you have this? Where's this? I need to show this person this. This person needs to see this. We have a meeting in 10 minutes. Can you finish this? Can you update this? Can we change that color real quick? Well, why did you do this? Well, so and so told you what? You were supposed to do it this way." Well, it's good on you, Duty. Actually, the the medical condition that my wife is currently recovering from, one of the nasty side effects of it was she had to be, well, still she remains on, but her dose is a lot lower. She had to remain on has had to remain on prednisone for an extremely long time, like about she's been on high doses of prednisone for about 6 months, and we found out a couple of months ago now that she has steroid induced diabetes. So we've been kind of getting the crash course, but thankfully temporary experience of managing diabetes. So I have got all the respect in the world for anybody who has to deal with diabetes, because that's tough. It's tough to deal with. It's tough to manage, and I am. We both are infinitely thankful that it seems very much like it's going to be temporary. Even just diabetes medication alone, when I went and got the first like bundle of the medication that they prescribed her, I looked at the pharmacist because I've got the diarrhea mouth. Sometimes I can't help myself. I looked at the pharmacist and I was like, it's like, how are diabetics all not just dead by default? She says, what? It was like, at these prices, how are diabetics all just not dead by default? This is insane, the amount of money you're asking for this. And she's like, well, technically we're not asking. I was like, yeah. All right, just give me the fucking medicine. And that would be one of those moments where if I had stopped to think about it, I would have said, you're being a bit of a DSP right now. Oh yeah, and look, I'll be the first one to admit that I probably talk about the misses a little bit too much. But right now, when and I'm sure everybody's been through this at some point. When you got somebody in your family who's going through a major medical situation, there's just like everything else kind of grinds to a halt. Like there's not much else going on, so you don't really have a whole lot. You don't really have a whole lot else to talk about. I mean, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that she's feeling good enough to let me go back to the gym. Because for a while there, I wasn't able to do that, and I was fucking stir crazy. I was going nuts. So I'm thankful that she's starting to feel better, and that I get to go do my shit again. But that's also, it's also why I've gotten myself so involved here in the vortex as well. You're in a situation like that, you need distractions. And when there's this stupid motherfucker on the internet every day that's just a hell of a lot of fun to laugh at, and the crowd that's standing around laughing at him is also cool as fuck, I mean, gonna be inclined to go be a part of that crowd, even more so than I already was. Plus, the nice thing about this over just endlessly playing video games which is what in years past I probably would have done with all this time, is that my skills are growing. I mean, I fucking love video games, but you've got me. I do this now, and I'm drawing even more every day than I used to, so my skills are constantly growing, which is good. There's one thing I can say. I've got a good job, I've got a good career, but my personal ambitions are definitely not satisfied. I've got a lot more that I want out of my professional life before I become too goddamn old to hold my pencil anymore. So, got to keep pushing, got to keep hustling. And that's why I feel so strongly about that sentiment that's shared by a lot of the creatives in the community, which is, you know, that doing this shit, memeing on Phil, is just it helps you hone your craft simply because you're just doing it more often. You're just doing it more often than you would be otherwise, whatever it is that you do. Well, Dyke and Aurora, she'd have to fucking cook and clean first for me to talk about her like that. Oh. I mean, that's partially true because she's been too ill to cook and clean, but, you know. No, she's a good one. She's a good one. And you know, you can't, admittedly, you can't get together with somebody, especially not in something like a marriage, and expect them to change who they are. I always remember when I was going to school the time to get the job that I have now. It was when I was in school in New York City, and I went to school with a bunch of ladies, bunch of ladies, very traditional ladies. It was like a weird group. They were young, but they were all kind of old school, and the program I was in was very intensive. So it was like 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, it was that intensive. You just lived there. And I remember saying something like at the end of class one day, I was like, I got to get home and get dinner started. And one of the women looked at me and said, you come here 15 hours a day and then you go home and cook. Your wife doesn't have a meal prepared for you. And I said, look, I married a woman who doesn't cook. I can't expect her to cook just because I put a ring on her finger. She does a lot of things. A lot of things to help out. She owns a lot of the chores and a lot of the weight around the house. But at the end of the day, like, you can't expect someone to change their stripes just because you put a ring on their finger. That's fucking stupid. What did I just miss there? It looked like it popped up, but then it didn't pop up. Shit. Well, whoever that was, whatever that notification was, thank you. Thanks for engaging positively with my stream, dude. It actually looks like the chat even shit on me a little bit. Oh, no, it's just fucking disappearing again. I gotta get that shit fixed. I swear to you, I'll figure all this shit out eventually, guys. You know what, Duty? Ironically, she played the fuck out of Skyrim. So I actually brought this up. I'm gonna tell this story, and then I'll get on to the next part of this. I brought this up in a thread chatting with some folks. I think it was on my most recent video. But whenever I think of my wife playing Skyrim, I think of back when it came out. It's like 10 years ago when we were just dating. She used to have some serious gamer rage problems, and she had this desk set up in the apartment that we lived in. She had a laptop sitting there, her monitor, her Xbox, all this shit set up, and she got murked by something in Skyrim, and she got so fucking mad. And this is like a 105-pound woman. She got so mad, she punched her desk so fucking hard that one of the legs on the desk, because it was like a shitty IKEA desk, one of the legs on the desk buckled. The thing fell partially, so it was on an angle. Her laptop fell off, hit the floor, busted a bunch of keys off. She fucked her controller up because I think it was under her fist when it went down. It was like a small fucking earthquake hit her desk. And just because she got mad and threw a single punch at it. And I think about that all the time and laugh my ass off. So she's had Skyrim sessions, but I don't know how if they've been super successful. My lady was actually used to be a hardcore Call of Duty player when I first met her, and now she's mostly Rocket League. She's kind of moved on from that. But our first proper date, was waiting in line for the midnight release of Modern Warfare 2 at a GameStop. And I remember her going inside because they had, we were outside in a big long line, but they had the game set up, right? So you could play it inside. And it was like I think the idea was you got in, you played single player until you died, right? You played until you died and you handed the controller to somebody else. And she went inside and she didn't come back for a really long time, like a really fucking long time. And this guy comes out, and there's a mother and her daughter behind us in line. We'd been chatting up, and this guy comes out, and he looks at his friend who's in front of me, and he goes, "Man, there's this fucking girl inside, and like, she's been going at it for like 20 minutes, and she hasn't died yet. Everybody else is dying within like 3-4 minutes, and she's been going at it for 20 minutes and hasn't dropped yet. It's fucking insane." And I turned and looked at this mom behind me, and I was like, "That's my girlfriend." And she goes, "How do you know?" And I said, "I fucking know." And then about 3 minutes later, she walks up to me and she goes, "Man, I just fucking owned. I was on for like 20 minutes and didn't die." I was like, "I fucking told you. I fucking told you." All right. Sorry, too much story time. So now we've got all of our baselines laid out. Now you can delete at this point your sketch layer, but you don't have to, and I don't like to, honestly. Not only do sometimes people want to see the sketches and stuff, you want to hold on to them. Fucking Christ, why can't I see that? Well, thank you again to whomever just did a thing. I'm really annoyed that I can't see my notifications. Stream elements overlay. Why can't I see you? Okay, I'll figure that out later. But a lot of times people, like, you want to save your artwork because sometimes people want to see the sketch layer, or sometimes you might want to reference it. Like if you go back and realize, oh, you forgot to sharpen up some lines, to make sure you get exactly what you want, I hold on to that sketch layer. But now that I'm here, we've got all these beautiful lines laid out, but the next thing that I want to do, I should say the last thing that I want to do before we kind of close the chapter here on this sketch and line work portion, we'll get into coloring next time, is I want to talk about line weights. So I've gotten a little bit into this, or in this drawing now, but line weights are a really important tool to share focus on, or to I guess draw focus to certain areas of a drawing. They're really important to kind of show where a light source is. So, if you're talking, for instance, like since Phil's light there's going to be light coming from this phone here, right? Maybe he's playing this in the dark. And I got to consider things like this. Maybe he's playing this in the dark, so there's no sun up, there's no sun out, and this is, it's 4 a.m. He's gin pulling, okay? So you want to think about, if the light is coming from here, then on the opposite side of where the light is, those lines are going to be thicker. And that's just a trick, a visual trick, especially if you're just doing line work and you're not actually going to color something or add value to it. That's a really good way to kind of show the which side of a drawing the shadow is hitting. Ugh, I feel really bad that people are positively interacting with the stream and I can't fucking see who it is or what they're doing, but try to get it sorted for next time. So you see how I put that on the back of the head, and that's just telling the eye, like as the viewer's looking at it, whether they realize it or not, you're subconsciously telling the viewer that the light is coming from the opposite side. The other nice thing is, that I like to do sometimes, depending on the drawing, is just thicken the outlines all around the outside of a drawing. And the reason for that being that, especially if you are drawing something in a scene that has a background, that can help visually push your character forward to kind of help them stand out from the rest of the drawing, to make sure that they don't just get lost in the mess, in the jumble of the rest of your drawing. But so once you've got your line work sharpened up, or I should say line work laid out initially, you want to go back and you want to just start asking yourself those questions. And again, I'm going to do it quick because I have a pretty good understanding of where the light's hitting this guy. But you're going to want to look at this and say, okay, I know which side of this form the shadow is going to be on, and I'm going to thicken up those lines. Just those lines. Because at the end of the day, a drawing, its most important function is to communicate to somebody communicate something that's in your head to the person who's looking at it, right? I mean, it's the reason that the earliest artwork in human history comes from cave walls, communications on cave walls. It's because the whole purpose is to say, I have this thought in my head of this dumb pig roach man drinking gin and pulling champions at 4 a.m, and I want to share that with you. And if I don't clearly visually communicate that, then I don't get what I want out of the drawing. You don't get what you want out of the drawing. You know, it's all just visual communication. I mean, think, if I didn't know how to visually communicate properly, we wouldn't have Dr. Pig Roach's cat's literal tears. And I think that's a product we all love and we can all believe in at this point. I'm thankful that we have it. And see, I'm also kind of, even though the light would be hitting here, I'm kind of punching this collar up so that it looks like it sits out in front of his face. Again, just all kind of little tricks that you'll learn as you work more. But I think the good rule of thumb when it comes to line weights is, if you want a dynamic image, line weights should never all be the same. Or they should never all be the same, like the thickness of your line. It should never all be consistent and the same throughout a drawing. Now, one place you'll see that constantly, and I think what throws people off, is you will almost always see consistent line weight in animation. And as I'm sure, if Barrett Wells is here, I'm sure he'll attest to this. That is mostly because animation is such a different beast. At least I believe so. I could be talking out of my ass, but my understanding is that animation is such a different beast because you have to draw these cells that look consistent, that it's just easier to stick with a consistent line weight throughout, so that each of your frames feels consistent with the one previous to it and the one after it, because that's the whole point of that medium. But when we're talking about still images, we're not adhering to the same rules as animation. And admittedly, I wish I had done that line fattening on another layer so that I could toggle it on and off and show you guys how effective it is. But I think you get the idea. And if you don't get the idea, I'm not repeating myself. Rewind the stream. I'll throw a little fucking LTG in there. I don't give a shit. One of my friends of the art on GW2 and works at Marvel now. That's fucking awesome, man. Jaha, I do art professionally. Yes. Admittedly, if you have people in that world you would be interested in at least helping me connect with, I would be into that, because to be frank, and I think every artist should be this way. One of your biggest concerns is that if you pigeonhole yourself too much into one industry, if that goes tits up for some reason, then you're kind of screwed. And if there's one thing I don't have out of my career that I want to be able to pivot to other industries if need be. And I don't think my skill is holding me back. I think my networking is holding me back. So, yeah, I'd be totally down to make some inroads in some other industries. I have friends who work in television and movies, but I don't know anyone who works in gaming or comics. I knew a lot of guys. I've worked with a lot of guys who formerly worked in comics, like a lot of old former comic pros who, for whatever, their life took them in a different direction, or they needed a more steady paycheck, so on and so forth. So they ended up doing what I do. I mean, really, the long story short is I think anybody would be stupid to say no to the possibility of more connections. But the truth is, yes, I am a professional artist. I work in a corporate situation, and I get paid 40 hours a week to draw and be creative. So I don't have a lot to complain about, but I think I would be doing my family a disservice if I weren't open to making as many connections as possible. Yeah, shoot me something. I'll say this: it's been long enough since I've had to look for work that my portfolio definitely needs a dust up. The work all exists; it's just not organized. and you may just give me the excuse I need to finally touch it up. The art portfolio world is so weird now. Like, I came in on the tail end of like carrying a big briefcase of artwork and setting it down in front of somebody and showing them all these physical products to 5 years later. I was interviewing for a job in LA, and I literally did the interview in a t-shirt and a pair of jeans on my cell phone. I pulled out my cell phone and just started flipping through my website. And that got me the job, which is fucking weird. Because I had actually interviewed in Chicago earlier that same week in a full regalia, tie, button down, khakis, tried really hard, did not get the job, went to LA, sat down in a t-shirt and jeans, swiped on my cell phone like I didn't give a fuck because I was in just a weird place and I was over it and I didn't care. And they were the ones who offered me the job. Fucking strange, but you just never know. Yeah, I'll tell you. I think the only person I ever the only person I ever really met from the video game industry job was a guy when I was living out in LA. I took my kids to a playground not too far from LAX, and we're sitting there, and I had a ZBrush t-shirt on because that's my digital sculpting program of choice. And this guy just comes over to me and goes, "Hey man, do you sculpt, or do you just, basically like do you do the thing, or are you just wearing the t-shirt?" It's like, "No, I do the thing." And we got to talking. And this guy, I don't know what he did, couldn't tell you who he was. This was years ago and I don't remember, but he told me he worked on God of War 2018. And this would have been like, God, I probably met this guy early 2019, maybe late 2018, early 2019. And he was saying how he had worked on God of War 2018. And, of course, me, I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool. I've always loved video games, but I've never worked in video games." And I'm getting kind of starry-eyed with him, right? So we hang out, we talk for a while, our kids play. And then as my wife and I are just about to leave, this guy calls to me and he runs over to me. And he's like, "Hey, man, I just want to talk to you." Because he goes, "You seem like really excited about the idea of working in video games, almost like you were, you might go pursue this." And I said, "Well, I mean, it's interesting." And I was like, "I'm not going to lie, you got me kind of hyped up." And he goes, "Yeah. So, like, I left the industry right after working on God of War 2018 because, and he kind of paused for a second. He goes, "Don't do it. Don't do it. Just don't do it." he, he goes, "Take the paycheck. If you got a nice paycheck, you got a family. If you got a nice paycheck," he goes, "take the paycheck." Like, he had the most worried look on his face, like I was about to go ruin my life by trying to get involved with the video game industry. And, I've given similar warnings to people about the industry that I work in, so I can't, I can't sit there and say I don't believe him. I think the reality is the corporate world is cutthroat no matter what you do, and no matter where you're working. Admittedly, I wish one of my passion projects would take off just so that I could just, do my own thing and be my own boss. But everybody wants that. You know what I mean? That's a tale as old as time. Everybody wants that shit. So now that I finished that, the only other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give the pig roach some stubble to connect his sideburns to the rest of his facial hair here. And I do this specifically because I want to show you another little gimmick, another little trick that's nice about digital artwork. So you see, I've got this marching ants, this magic wand tool. I've sectioned this whole area off, and I've set myself on a separate layer. And I have this super cool brush that I created that makes splatters. So I can actually just lightly swipe this brush around and then use my soft eraser tool to kind of soften up the edges, and boom, in seconds, this fat motherfucker needs a shave. Isn't that great? It's so nice. It's so nice. So that's kind of what I wanted to get through tonight. We went from, and I did a lot of talking, a lot of storytelling. I'm sorry if for anyone who might have actually been here to learn something. This was not the most focused A to B conversation, but we started with loose sketching to get your foundation. We started with drawing from the elbow to the fingers, making your way down the arm, going from sort of looser to tighter. We talked about laying out clean line work. We talked about dialing in line weights and the specific purpose for that. And where we're going to go next time, and I'll just do this really quick. This is, again, this is just kind of how I like to work. I select everything on the inside of my my drawing here, and I tend to just fill it with like a 50% pretty neutral gray. And what that does, it's on a separate layer as well, right? And what that does for me is now I basically have this island of color that goes right up to the edge of my drawing, and I can actually even choose an option to lock that frame. So if you'll notice now, if I switch to like a blue, right, and I can just wildly swipe my brush across this, but because I transparency locked that frame, it is only going to draw where pixels already exist. So if I knock out the background, you can kind of see that. It's only going to draw where pixels already exist, and I'm going to use that gray layer as the basis for blocking in my colors to get everything the color we want it to be. And then we'll add some light and some shadow to show you how to dimensionalize things. In fact, I'm thinking I'm going to split it up into 2 separate streams, because when there's multiple routes to get to the same destination, I want to show you that too. So I'll show you sort of what I refer to as like my A route, which is blocking in all the color and then adding the shading, the dimension to it. But then there's also another method where you just sort of grayscale shade everything and then add color to it after the fact. And they kind of get you to 2 different aesthetics, and it just kind of comes down to which one serves the purposes, what gets you what you want out of your drawing. And I thought it might be fun to kind of do both of those to show you an A route and a B route. And then when we get into shading and messing with light, we can talk about different light sources, putting them in a darker room, putting them in a lighter room, and sort of messing with how to, with how that all sort of manifests depending on what way you create a drawing. So that's part of what I love about this stuff, is that a drawing is kind of like, it's kind of like fractals of possibility. Every little decision you make takes you in a different direction, and that's what's so great about it. Just the slightest different choice can either lead to a drawing that you absolutely hate and that you just want to pitch into the bin, or it can lead you to, you can learn a new thing and go, oh my God, I never thought of doing this way before, and now it becomes this new sort of inherent part of your process of how you do things. So I think that's all I've really got for tonight. The fucked up thing is I'd really love to stay on and keep hanging out, but I really do need to get a couple of things done and try to get myself fucking dialed down off all this caffeine I took before I hopped on here to fuck with you guys in the first place. I definitely drank a little bit too much of my go-go juice before I hopped on here, but I'm glad I did, because I don't like coming on if I'm gonna sit here and try to give you guys something worth watching. I don't want to do it when I'm all fucking low energy. Oh, Bob Ross emote. Fuck yeah, that's a good idea. A Bob Ross style emote. Yeah, we should. You know what would actually be fun is to do emotes for every one of Phil's shitty Halloween costumes over the years. That'd be a fun one to work up. Find a way to tier that out. But I've got to check. To be completely honest with you, I don't even know if I can do emotes yet. I hopped on here and just started kind of going whole hog on YouTube streaming in general without taking enough time to figure out what I could and couldn't do. Until I get my whatever, like however many thousand watch hours or whatever. I know more shit unlocks at that point, but whatever. We'll get there. We'll get there at some point. So, but yeah, I'm actually gonna make a note of that. I think that'd be a cool thing to do. That'd definitely be a cool thing to do. And yes, I did nothing wrong and everything correct. I think that's the most important thing. The most important thing to keep in mind is that I did absolutely nothing wrong. And if you say I did, then I guess fuck you. You're a liar. I really want to work on my DSP impression. I feel like there's so many good ones out there in the community, and I use so many of his phrases to a point where I get pissed off that he ruins so many good things. Like the phrase "that being said," I fucking use "that being said" on a daily basis, and now I cringe every time I do it, and it makes me mad because I dare you to find a better transition phrase. There is no better transition phrase in the English language, but he has fucking tainted it. And it makes me so fucking mad. I know, I know the boys on the podcast are kind of trying to take it back, but I don't know if they're ever going to be able to do it. So nice, yes. Sketches on my Twitter. Thank you, actually. Thank you, Mr. Nevitz. That's something I wanted to bring up. So let's call it homework. I'm glad you reminded me of this. So I would hope that as you sit and take all of this in, as we have this fun together from time to time when I find time to do these instructional, informational style art streams, I would hope that you actually take some of this stuff and you use it and you get inspired and you make some drawings of your own. So I just want to throw out there that my DMs are open as fuck for whatever sort of artwork you want to send. Thoroughly entertained by that shit. I guess find me on Discord if you want to. I'm on the That Being Said Discord. That's pretty much the only place that I fuck around when I do. But send me stuff, man. I love checking out people's artwork, even if it's dumb DSP shit. If it's not dumb DSP shit, I don't care. If you're into dumb shit like I am, I got fucking backlogs of weird passion projects and fucking tokusatsu fan art and shit to show you too. I mean, if you weren't here at the beginning of the stream, I fucking shared a 3D sculpt of a Nutcracker mech that I created just for fun. Like, I do dumb shit. This is not the only dumb shit that I do. But anyway, thank you guys very much for being here. I'm going to let you chill out for a couple of minutes. It's becoming a meme at this point that I do not have an ending stream image because I just kind of keep forgetting to make an ending stream image. So I might just subject you to the level 1 pigcast image again. But thank you guys for hanging out. And we'll see you again very soon. I've got a couple more video ideas that I wanna take care of, and I know that ALT's already brought it up, but I really, really, really can't wait to show you guys the video that I worked up for Christmas, and I am so thankful that the boys at That Being Said are gonna let me debut it on their show, because I'm really fucking hyped for it, and it's been killing me not to show it to you. But a couple more weeks, I got a banger for you for Christmas. So. And we'll catch you guys later. Chill out, here's some music, and we'll talk again very, very soon.